Good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late, but it is the time of COVID. And my wife, who's an assistant principal in the city of Passaic in the elementary school system, she's working summer school this week. And that meant she had to get on the computer first for all the check ins and everything else. She had a meeting already this morning with a social worker, and now she's physically going in to the city of Passaic, to the school district, to check on some other things. So we're a little bit late today, but that's okay because we'll get through it. Because now it's time to talk about group communication and your assignment. But what I first want to talk about is you as the. Oh, before I do that, let me just say some of your papers were so good last night. They really were. And again, one of the things, this is why I don't teach the Com-102, which I did teach many, many, many years ago, which is just public speaking, where basically all you're doing is speeches. I really like the Com-100 because it includes group communication. And one of the reasons why is, I unlike a lot of my colleagues, I did do a lot of work in the private sector. And one of the things that I found is, as I was explaining to you guys, there's a lot of companies where any given floor of that company, there's one, maybe even two conference rooms. There's a lot of group communication in the private sector. And that meant to me, because I was in different fields, that it doesn't matter what field you go into, because some people think, well, I'm never going to be given a speech again after this class, which may be true. I don't think it's true, but that may be true. But if there's one thing, no matter what field you're going to be going into, you're probably going to go into a field where you'll walk into the place that you work, even if it's a company you own, and you're going to make sure, especially if you're building your own company from the ground up, one of the first things you're going to say is, you know what, we need to have a conference room. And of course, that's where you sit and work in group communication. So that's why I really like the Com-100, is because of that group component. And when you're talking about your families, again, it's one of those things where you sit down, and it seemed quite a few of you had that example that I had mentioned, I referenced, that I get quite often, where you've got the grandma, the grandpa, who maybe is alone. They can't really live because, especially now that you're this college age, your grandparents have now gotten up in age, and they just really can't live on their own anymore. So now the family has to sit down and decide, well, what are we going to do? And especially with some of you, that grandmother or grandfather lives in another country. Now you got to try not only to get him, a place to live, but you got to get him over here to the States. So there were some really, really good examples, and I really did appreciate reading them, and you guys providing me with some I mean, you're making my job easy when you guys come up with some really good examples like you did. But now we focus on you as the individual group participant. And you want to make sure that when you're in a group, that you are the most effective group participant you can be. Okay? And what you want to make sure you do, okay, is you want to make sure that at all times that you are assuming naturally, and again, a lot of this comes naturally. And sometimes you don't even recognize that it's happening, but that you're naturally assuming certain behaviors that help to find a solution to the problem, or to complete a task in hand, or to come up with a new idea, whatever it is the goal is of that group. And when you naturally assume certain behaviors, what these are called roles. Now, everyone, no matter who you are and what group you're in, everyone always naturally assumes roles. Even if you sit there and don't say a gosh darn word, you're naturally assuming a role. Albeit it's a negative one because you're not saying anything, but still you are naturally assuming a certain role. Okay? Now, if you go to your textbook on page 253, you'll see where these roles begin. Now, of course, the first type of roles are positive roles. These are the type of roles you hope you naturally assume to help to complete the task at hand, and that's why they're referred to as task-oriented roles. Okay? For example, you could be an information giver. One of the things that you might find is you're sitting in a group and you bring forth a lot of experience or knowledge about the situation to the group. You could be an opinion seeker. You want to make sure you get everybody's opinion, which could be key. An opinion seeker could be key in order to make sure that you have equal and active participation. You could be an opinion giver. Okay, there's all kinds of different roles that you can naturally assume to where you are a task-oriented role. Okay, there are also positive roles, as you see on the next page, that are are social and maintenance roles. These are roles that you'll naturally assume to help keep a positive cohesiveness among the group. You could be a supporter or encourager, which I've never heard of any group ever that was a bad group that had someone naturally assume the role of supporter or encourager. Okay, making sure that you're reinforcing in the group's minds that you guys are giving great ideas. No, no, that's a good one. Keep coming up with that. Oh no, that's a good. Oh well, yeah, let's write that one down. Absolutely. Okay. Also, there is the harmonizer, because one of the things that happens in groups sometimes, okay, is sometimes people don't like someone else's ideas, and maybe they don't express it in as nice a way as they should. And of course, the other person takes it personally. Well, what you want to make sure as a harmonizer to do is to make sure that you mediate any differences, especially ones that sometimes don't have to do with the group project itself. Some of you, for example, in your family papers, you were talking about how there was a little sibling rivalry, something that happened years ago that gets brought into this particular discussion, which needs to get, to stay out. I've seen, for example, students in high school will be in a group, and let's say it's yearbook committee or something, prom committee or something like that, and someone comes up with an idea and the other person says, well, I don't think that's a good idea, and the other person says, well, why? Because I stole your boyfriend 2 years ago at the party. That kind of thing, it doesn't work. Okay, a harmonizer makes sure to keep that, nip that in the bud, so it doesn't infect the rest of the group. Okay, so there are group task roles, social and maintenance roles. These are all positive roles, and as you can see on 253 and 254, there's 20 of these. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, without even thinking too much about it, the last group meeting I was with that wasn't Zoom or WebEx, I think my landscapers are here. The last group meeting I was in was the Veterans Committee at Bergen had a meeting right before spring break. We met for about 54 minutes. I could easily say, when I think about the things that I said, how I contributed to that meeting, I probably assumed at least 8 of those 20 roles. Okay. Now, you won't naturally assume all of those roles. I just happen to go back to that and realize that I assume at least 7 or 8 of those roles. Things that I said, contributions that I made to the group. Okay. Well, it's all hunky-dory when everything's positive, right? Well, unfortunately, as you can see, there are also what we call dysfunctional roles. Now, the interesting part with a dysfunctional role, is you got to make sure you work through that role. See, someone in a dysfunctional role doesn't really care whether the group is successful or not, but you care for the group to be successful. So what you have to do is you pretty much have to kill them with kindness. Exhaust all avenues of kindness when it comes to working with someone who happens to assume the role that is dysfunctional. Okay? For example, someone who's an aggressor, someone who just attacks someone for no reason, okay? Nonsensically going after someone because something has nothing to do with the group itself. Oh, well, you're from there. What do you know about this? It's something stupid. Then there's a blocker, someone who completely and utterly just disagrees with everything for no reason. Just, I disagree with everything and I don't care. Sometimes you want to just get up and walk away, but in other times you don't have that opportunity. If you have, for example, I'll give you a great example where sometimes you just can't walk away from someone with a dysfunctional role. See, if you're in your family, you can just walk, I can't stand you, I'm not never talking to you again. But let's say you get your bachelor's degree. You leave Bergen, go get your bachelor's degree, get an entry-level position. And now you're making more money you ever made in your life. And after a year, you got your own apartment and you got your first ever brand new car. So now you're paying car payments, insurance payments, you're paying rent, you got a lease. Well, now you go to work, you have a meeting in the morning, and there's someone there who totally assumes the role of a dysfunctional role, whether it's the blocker, whether it's the recognition seeker, whatever it is. In that situation, you just can't get up and walk away. That's your job. You need the money. You need that job. So what you have to do is just exhaust all avenues of kindness. Work through someone who assumes that dysfunctional role. And that's what the roles are all about, is making sure that you naturally assume certain roles for you to be the most effective group communicator you can be and to help complete the task at hand, whether it's finding a solution to the problem, finding a new idea, or, of course, completing a task. So now comes your group paper. This is what I want you to do, is I want you to take a look at those roles. All right? And I think I got the pages correct. I don't have them directly in front of me. It's on your assignment sheet. I think it's pages 253 to 255. What I want you to do is take a 1.5 to 2 minute page paper, and I want you to document for me 5 positive roles that you have naturally assumed in a group. Now, it could all be 5 roles could have all happened in the same group, or it could, well, I assumed 2 of these roles in this group, and what I want you to do is follow the directions on the assignment sheet, because I want you to tell me why you felt assuming that, like, what did you do that made you understand that you assumed that role in the group, and why do you feel that was helpful towards completing the task in your group? So there's 5 task roles I want you to identify that you feel you naturally assumed in a group that helped to positively affect that group. And then I want you to tell me a group that you participated in once where one of the people assumed a dysfunctional role. What was it that person did? Like, what role did they assume? What was it they were saying or doing? And then I want you to tell me how the group addressed that person with the dysfunctional role. All right? So there's your group paper. You've got the assignment sheet. And I'm going to give you a little extra time because this is going out a little late. So you have until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, Thursday, July 23rd. That's hopefully when I'll be coming back to do my next video. I don't think my wife's got to check in tomorrow. We'll see. If it is, it might happen a little late. But otherwise, you're going to have until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning to go ahead and complete the group paper. All right? And once we get to tomorrow, 4 weeks down, 2 weeks to go. You guys have a terrific day and get to work on those group papers.